All right, welcome to part 3 of this Acts course on Sabbath. We talked a little bit about some tough questions. We talked, what is the Sabbath? I want to pause briefly in the shortest installment of this course and really just sort of focusing on why. We alluded a little bit to it, but I want to give you 3 just simple reasons why. Number 1, you and I are designed to rest. Without sleep, we perish. Without Sabbath, we don't really live. Without a break from work, we exist. God created humanity in His image, and the image of God, He created us. In Genesis 1:27, He blessed the 7th day, and He made it set apart, and He said, I'm going to rest, you're going to rest, creation is going to rest. We're designed for it. In this place, we are made to rest. We're made to rest. This is so important to grab a hold of, because I think what we have, convinced ourselves is that we're made to work. And what the enemy deceives you and I in, especially when it comes to rest, is the fact of the matter is, even if your job has purpose, even if it's great, even if you're in quote-unquote ministry, you want to know that what you do, if it's paid as a paycheck, it's underneath the curse. By the sweat of your brow, you're going to toil the land. That was after the fall. And what happens is when we're working, we're actually, to be honest, if we're getting paid to do it, feeling the weight of the curse. By the sweat of our brow, we're toiling the land. We're participating in that. And what the Sabbath does is it reminds us that we're designed first and foremost to rest. We're designed first and foremost to step out from underneath it. It gives us that. I'm not talking about the spiritual condition that Christ completely obliterated the curse. I'm talking about the physical ramifications that the curse still lingers when it comes to disease, when it comes to divorce, when it comes to sin, when it comes to all the fallout from the fall of man. Laboring underneath the curse is one of them. So many pastors do this. So many people in ministry do this. So many people with great jobs do this. They feel like they never have to take a break, but what they're really doing is hustling hard underneath the curse. They're hustling hard for it. Doesn't mean the work doesn't have value. Doesn't mean it doesn't have purpose. Doesn't mean it isn't beautiful. But we got to step away from whatever is the plow that we're tilling, because we're designed to rest, not to work. Subtle shift. It's changed my perspective completely. Second thing, the Sabbath truly is a form of worship. It's a form that, we acknowledge that our life is really not defined by our efforts, but in who we are. It's not defined by what we're producing. It's defined by our passionate pursuit of our true self, our true identity. It's this form of worship that we practice in the natural, and He does the super. It's this moment in time where we stop whatever it is that is work, and we acknowledge the rest that God has given us. Third thing, by the way, one of my favorite parts of that is Mark 2:27, where Jesus says the Sabbath was for humankind. Not humankind for the Sabbath. It's for us. It's for worship. Third thing is the Sabbath is meant for good. Now, if you think about it from this perspective, the Sabbath itself is meant for our good. I'm always challenged in the why, that if the God of the universe had to take a break, who am I to think that I don't have to take a break? If God broke, then why don't I break? If that makes sense. It's interesting for us to have this position of pride where we feel like we're invincible. Why do we Sabbath? Well, we're designed for rest. It's a form of worship and finding that true identity in the Sabbath. God knew is meant for our good. I want you to check out Mark 2:27. Read that for yourself. I want you to think a little bit about why the reasons that you think you would take a break. The other thing I'll say is this. If you look at it strictly from a physical standpoint, just look at what rest does, even in some of the studies that are out there. We'll put them in the field guide and the notes. But even the science community, having nothing to do with, let's just say, traditions of faith, rest for our body in that way gives us a new life. What's the leading, contributor to heart disease? McDonald's? Bacon? State fairs? It's stress. And stress shows up when the Sabbath has left the building. Why? So we can live. Last episode's coming up on this beautiful topic on rest.